Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain an American psychological thriller horror film from 2018, titled Open 24 Hours. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. After being diagnosed with paranoid delusions, Mary is released from a mental hospital after serving time for killing her serial killer boyfriend, James Lincoln Fields, known as the Rain Ripper, by setting him on fire. To help her reintegrate into society, Ed, the owner of a remote gas station in Missouri, hires Mary as the night shift cashier. When Mary returns to her apartment, she goes to the bathroom and suddenly hallucinates James murdering one of his victims. Trying to calm and convince herself that the incident isn't real, Mary takes her medication, and moments later, her parole officer, Tom Dugan, visits her to review the terms of her release. Mary tells Tom about her new job at the gas station, and mentions her night shift starts that evening. Before leaving, Tom tells her to report any unusual incidents at work, and to avoid any erratic behavior that could send her back to jail. That evening, Mary goes to the park to meet her childhood friend Debbie, and while waiting, she has another terrifying vision of James stalking her in the park. Debbie arrives and snaps her out of it. They go to a nearby diner where Mary confides in Debbie about her hallucinations. In response, Debbie reminds Mary that James is still in prison and urges her not to tell anyone about the visions, especially her parole officer, as it could lead to serious consequences. As Debbie is talking, Mary briefly hallucinates seeing a bloody victim in the diner but is quickly brought back to reality by Debbie. Back at her apartment, Mary plugs in her telephone and receives a call from her parole officer, Tom, who called to wish her luck with her new job. After hanging up, the phone rings again, but this time, it's a grieving woman who threatens and blames Mary for her child's death. Later that evening, Debbie drives Mary to the gas station, and during the ride, Mary confesses that James used to call her and play the song Raindrops before every murder, which is why she now avoids phones. Debbie drops Mary off at the station just as rain begins to fall, and inside, they meet Bobby, another employee who walks Mary through her duties before stepping out to retrieve the store keys. Debbie buys a few items and promises to check in on Mary later. Out in the parking lot, Debbie sits in her car smoking a cigarette, unaware of a hooded figure lurking nearby with a hammer. When she lowers her window to let out the smoke, the hooded assailant suddenly attacks her with the hammer and drags her away. Back in the store, Bobby returns with the keys and shows Mary which locks they open, and before leaving, he writes down his phone number in case she needs help. As the night goes on, Mary steps outside for a smoke, unaware that the hooded assailant is watching her from the shadows. Suddenly, she hears the doorbell jingle, signaling someone has entered the store. Mary heads inside to investigate, and as she searches the store, the hooded figure silently walks past her. Suddenly, Mary is startled by the ringing telephone, and when she answered it, Mary discovered it is the same woman who had called earlier. The woman asks Mary what time the store closes and repeatedly calls back, taunting her with chilling questions like, "Do you enjoy watching people die?" Convinced it might all just be another hallucination, Mary takes her medication, hoping to calm herself. Moments later, Mary gets her first customer of the night, a sleazy truck driver who stops to buy diesel for his truck and some snacks. The man starts flirting with Mary, but when she doesn't respond to his advances, he decides to leave. However, Mary notices he left his credit card behind, and runs out to return it but sees that he's already gone. Suddenly, Mary experiences a terrifying hallucination where she sees her ex-boyfriend, James, who is engulfed in flames, walking towards her. Before she can process it, Bobby unexpectedly returns to check on her, which she accidentally punches on the face. After Mary helps Bobby with his injuries, they two share a light-hearted moment about the truck driver, and Bobby mentions that the man is a regular customer who often leaves his credit card behind as an excuse to come back. Driven by curiosity, Bobby, who hears that Mary set her ex-boyfriend on fire, asked about it, and hesitant at first, Mary opens up about her past. Her ex, James Lincoln Fields, was infamously known as the Rain Ripper because he believed killing people in the rain would cleanse their souls. Mary explains that she earned the nickname The Watcher in the media after discovering James's horrifying secret. She found out he was a murderer when their basement flooded, revealing the body parts of his victims, and from that day on, James kept her captive, forcing her to witness him kill 35 people. Mary finally found the courage to fight back when she saw James kill Christine Rogers, his final victim, and one night while James is asleep, she set their house on fire while they were both inside. However, James survived and was sent to prison, but Mary still suffers from frequent hallucinations of him, which she tries to control with medication. After Bobby leaves, two teenagers enters the store, and as one goes to use the bathroom, the other buy alcohol with a fake ID. Just then, the store's phone suddenly starts ringing, and when Mary answers, the song Raindrops plays through the line, which trigger her fear, and noticing her distress, the teenagers quickly leave. Meanwhile, as Bobby drives home, his truck breaks down on a desolate road. He comes down, and while he is inspecting the vehicle, the hooded assailant strikes him with a hammer from behind. Meanwhile, Mary decides to check the outside bathroom after one of the teenagers tells her it's flooded. While washing her hands at the sink, Mary catches a glimpse of the hooded assailant in the mirror's reflection, and despite feeling uneasy, she continues to inspect the bathroom and finds Debbie's driver license in the toilet. Suddenly, two bloody hands emerge from the toilet bowl and grab Mary, causing her to fall backward in shock. Just then, the toilet begins to overflow with blood, and Mary is confronted by a horrifying vision of a drowned victim begging for help. Desperately trying to convince herself it's not real, Mary is further terrified when arms break through the wall behind her, attempting to grab her, but it turns out to be another hallucination. Shaken, Mary returns to the store only to be startled by her parole officer, who stops by for an unannounced check-in. When Tom mentions his need to use the bathroom, Mary directs him to the one in the back, explaining that the outside bathroom is already flooded. While alone, Mary is confronted by the hooded assailant, who is revealed to be James. Shocked but convinced it's another hallucination, Mary tries to dismiss him, but James strikes her to prove he's real. James begins to threaten her, saying more people will die and she will be forced to watch, just like before. Desperate to regain control, Mary closes her eyes, and when she finally opens them, James is gone, and in his place stands a woman, who come to buy gas. However, when the woman calmly asks when the store will close, Mary frees, recognizing the voice as the same one from the threatening phone calls. She accuses the woman of harassing her, but the woman denies knowing what Mary is talking about and leaves just as Tom enters the store. Mary tells Tom about the threatening phone calls from the mysterious woman, and concerned, Tom tells her to report anything unusual from now on to him before leaving the store. Later, while Mary is alone, she notices a car parked outside. Nervously, she steps out to investigate and sees chilling words written in blood on the car's windshield. Afraid, she rushes back inside and attempts to call Tom, but the call doesn't go through. She dials 911 but hangs up when she sees that the car outside has suddenly disappeared, and in fear, she tries calling Bobby, but his line is also unreachable. Just then, strange noises echo from the office, and Mary cautiously checks the room but finds no one there. Feeling uneasy, she decides to check the store's back room, where she is horrified to discover Debbie and Bobby tied to chairs. Convinced it's another hallucination, she runs out of the room where she encountered the woman from earlier, who reveals herself to be Karen, the mother of James' last victim, Christine. Karen blames Mary for her daughter's death, and attacks her with a knife. Overcome with rage, Karen accuses Mary of standing by and watches while James killed her daughter, before chasing Mary around the store while trying to harm her with the knife. In a frantic struggle, Mary managed to fight back and lock herself in one of the store's rooms, but determined to get to her, Karen begins hacking at the door with the knife. Desperate to protect herself, Mary grabs a glass bottle and decides to use it as a weapon, and when Karen finally breaks down the door, Mary smashes the bottle over Karen's head, knocking her unconscious. Mary tries to escape, but the conscious Karen grabs her, and just as Karen prepares to stab Mary, Tom arrives and shoots her dead. Tom explains that he returned because he tried calling Mary and couldn't get through. He also reveals urgent news: there has been a prison breakout and James is among those who escaped, leaving Mary worried. Just then, James suddenly appears behind Tom and strikes him with a hammer, rendering him unconscious. He then turns his attention to Mary, attacking and knocking her out. When Mary regained consciousness, she finds herself tied to a chair in the store's back room, and across from her sit Debbie, Tom, and Bobby, all bound and gagged. James tells Mary he has been watching her for a long time and even witnessed Karen's attack, though he was afraid that Mary will get killed, not until Tom intervene and save her. Terrified, Mary asks James what he intends to do, and he responds, "You already know," before grabbing a sledgehammer. Mary is forced to watch as James brutally crushes Tom's head with the hammer, and the horrifying act leaves her in tears. When it's Debbie's turn, Mary pleads with James to spare her, but he ignores her cries and suffocates Debbie with a plastic bag. Next, James grabs a gasoline and douses Bobby in preparation to set him on fire. However, before he can light the match, the trucker from earlier unexpectedly returns to the store, which interrupts James' deadly spree. James ties Mary's mouth to prevent her from screaming and leaves the room to investigate the noise outside. Seizing the opportunity, Mary struggles and manages to free herself. She quickly unties Bobby, who reveals that a fellow employee keeps a shotgun in their locker. Mary retrieves the weapon, loads it, and together, she and Bobby wait for James to return in order to kill him. Meanwhile, the trucker enters the store, where he finds it eerily empty, and after noticing bloodstains scattered throughout, he immediately calls 911 to report the disturbing scene. As he makes his way toward the back room, James stalks him, and in a brutal attack, impales him through the neck with his hammer. Staggering from the injury, the trucker is shot by Mary when she mistakes him for James. After stepping out from their hideout and realize it isn't James they've shot, Mary is overwhelmed with guilt that she kills someone. Bobby tries to calm her, but their situation worsens when James, now aware they are armed, cuts the store's power, which plunged the building into darkness. At that moment, Officer Collins arrives outside the gas station in response to the trucker's 911 call. Mary and Bobby make their way toward the store entrance, hoping to flag him down, but before they can reach, James ambushes them and kills Bobby with a hammer. Mary rushes outside to meet Officer Collins, and after explaining what happened, Collins decides to help her, and just as they're about to drive away in his car, James appears and shoots the officer with a shotgun. Mary runs out of the car and into the woods with James chasing her, now holding a sledgehammer. She managed to hide from him and stumbles upon an old wrecking yard, and while searching for a weapon to defend herself, she finds a shovel and comes up with an idea. James tracks her down but discovers she's not in the wrecking yard, and as he is about to leave, Mary sneaks up and hits him with the shovel before running away. While running through the woods, Mary spots a car approaching her direction and tries to flag it down, but her attempts fail, and with no other options, she runs back to the store and locks herself in Ed's office. Moments later, James breaks into the store, and while looking for something to protect herself with, Mary notices a deer's head mounted on the wall. As James breaks down the door, Mary, who is now holding the deer's head, uses its antlers to impale him, causing him to bleed out. After hearing the trucker's phone ringing, Mary crawls toward it to answer, and at the same time, James managed to remove the deer's antlers from his body. He moves closer to Mary and proclaims his love for her before dying, and Mary also collapses from exhaustion. The next morning, when Mary wakes up, she finds that James is nowhere to be found, and she staggers past the carnage on her way outside the store. The next scene shows Mary at a new job in a hairdressing salon, and the movie concludes when she sees James' reflection in the mirror, staring at her. Okay guys, that's all the recap about Open 24 Hours from 2018. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.